Hello, freak bitches.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
From an intelligence perspective, how did that October 7th thing not get detected? I mean, doesn't the IDF, don't they have agents embedded in Hamas? Don't they have like the most intense security system ever and surveillance system ever?
They do, yeah. And it was a massive intelligence failure. And in part, it was a very... It was a very, I don't want to say sophisticated. Sophisticated is the wrong word, but in terms of the planning of this, if you're conducting an operation or you're conducting any intelligence really concern, then the first thing you need to worry about is need to know, right? So how do you limit information? How do you limit the dissemination of information about what you're doing? And that's just good OPSEC. That's good operational security.
So I'm going to say the name of the contractor. Harry Reid said this. We knew that Lockheed Martin had this material for decades. I tried to get access and I was denied. And specifically with the Lockheed Martin stuff, he was talking about during the OSAP program. And for the people who are on this program, I submitted this shit to the officer, got this cleared, so don't freak out, but I'm telling the truth here. So Lockheed Martin wanted to divest itself from this material at a specific facility that's known to me that I provided to the Inspector General, like street address, all that shit, right? And the idea was if they made a security catcher's mitt for this shit, most serious SAP possible, the contractor and the other government customer, which was the Central Intelligence Agency, for that specific Lockheed material, and it was shit that they recovered from like the 50s and stuff.
I don't know where to start and where to end. They said, well, let us help you. So they found a ghostwriter named Amelie Greven, who is great. And she and Dad had phone dates every Friday for probably a year that lasted anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. And in listening to the book, Dad narrated it. And it is like a glimpse inside of his brain. It is such a... all of his thoughts are there. And, I think it's so important because, Dad started a business and a mission that is going to last a lot longer than him. He's 69 this year. And, the food system is not going to be fixed, by the time he is gone. And so to be part of that and to be part of a business that's, bigger than one person's life that lasts so much longer, I think is so important. And people like him have got to focus on that.
And he actually told me on behalf of me, he had like a weekly call with President Joe Biden at the time. And he straight up said to me, he was going to talk to President Biden about this issue, literally. And then what he was telling me about OSAP, I was like, holy shit. I have like 20 other people that told me this, dude. So the real history, what fucking OSAP was, because I think there's a lot of people out there that think they were looking at ghosts, Skinwalker Ranch. Yes, they went to the ranch as a secondary and tertiary objective. But the real reason, so like there's a document that came out a couple years ago through FOIA from the Defense Intelligence Agency. So I'm sitting there in Harry Reid's living room, right next to him with some other witnesses that were there with me. And he straight up says, he's like, yeah, I knew we had UFO material. I was denied access for decades. I tried to get access. And then he explained some of his efforts during OSAP. And I was like, holy shit, did the former majority leader just say, did he just confirm this to me as well? You know, I was already talking to these amazing high-level people, but I have Harry Reid literally saying, yes, we have material, and, you know, he knew it was non-human.
Did Harry Reid have personal experience with this?
I don't know if he's had any personal stuff in his personal life.
I mean, did he see it? Did he
said,
witness?
In terms of seeing the material himself, he said he was denied access for years, decades was his term. Mussolini, and this is all publicly available information because some Italian researchers found all these original documents that some people were sitting on for years in Italy. They put a gag order on the press, etc. And Mussolini asked the Germans to come down. And of course, the Germans came down and they were like, that is not ours, but let's look at it together. So that's kind of perhaps a tertiary reason the kind of Axis powers got together. I'm not saying that's like the reason, but I think the Italians and the Germans were so intrigued with what they found from like an artifact perspective. There was at least some scientific and military collaboration during the war, the details of which I'm not sure of, but I know people that know that specific event that are currently still intel officers within this program in detail. But so if it was piloted, if you will, by some sentience, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. So.
So what happened to that vehicle?
So we knew where it was being stored at a particular location after the crash, and then the military came in and we grabbed it towards the end of the war, 1944, 1945, because, like I said, Pope Pius XII already kind of let FDR know.
Why did the Pope get involved? Because it's in Italy?
Well, interestingly enough, there's like a whole history of human intelligence prior to World War II and old money, the Vatican, the Italian mob, kind of the old country boys did a lot of informal intelligence collection for the U.S. And there's probably some books you can read on it, but it's really interesting.
Elon Musk is probably going to offer rides soon, $250, $250,000 a ticket.
I think you could already get into space for that amount of cheddar.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think you can get into space for like $250.
I want to go to space.
Like the Blue Origin, don't they fly people into space? Bro, you want to wait a few years.
Yeah? Yeah, I definitely want them to get the kinks out.
Get
You know
the
what I mean?
kinks out.
Work out the glitches and shit.
You don't want to die in a fiery ball of hell.
Yeah.
Crashing into the ocean, burning alive.
Nah, yeah.
Blue Origin. For suborbital flights, Blue Origin typically charges around $200,000 to $300,000 per person. The cost includes a 1-hour flight and a 3-hour preparation program. For those looking to go into orbit, Blue Origin's orbital launch services range from $50 million to $100 million per person. Yo.
That's a big difference.
That is a giant difference.
All right.
So it kind of perpetuates this idea that the banking system, and everybody kind of knows this, the banking system is built on a house of cards, and it could collapse at any moment. And if it does, the federal government's going to have to come rob you of your money to give to a bunch of bankers again. That's our system. That's our financial system.
And the CEOs of those banks still got bonuses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They all still got bonuses.
It is crazy, and it's crazy that they don't look to diet as being the primary cause of that. Or if they do, they look to these epidemiology studies that don't take into account exactly what you're eating with the meat. Why is it meat that's always demonized?
Well, I think for a number of reasons. One, if you go back to like dietetics in the beginning, like back in 1917, the American Dietetics Association was formed. This was formed literally by Seventh-day Adventists, so that from the very, very beginning, the creation of the nutrition science field, these Seventh-day Adventists who are, religiously vegetarians. You go back to the Kellogg's brothers, John Harvey Kellogg, where he's out there, circumcising females and saying we can't eat meat because it's going to make you have sex and make you have lust and masturbate. This is all like this religious stuff. And then it got
people don't know that, but they should know that he developed this cereal, this bland cereal.
Right.
This is all like when you have a fiat currency system and you go off of any type of gold standard or anything that kind of limits the government's ability to just print as much money out of thin air as they want to, you get this thing where we live in a cycle of constant inflation. And this is something that people don't put that much thought into. Like, when you're talking to your grandma or something and she's like, in my day, a bottle of Coke was a nickel. Right. We just take that almost as like, yeah, well, that's how it works. Things over time get way more expensive. That's just how, because that's been so just how we've always experienced life, that it's just a given that everything's always going to be a little more expensive. And we may have a bad year where things are like 9% more expensive, and then maybe we'll have a better year where things are only 2% more expensive, but it's always going in this direction. Right. But that's not a law of nature. That doesn't just have to be that way.
One day they found tentacle imprints, the imprints of the suction cups, that were massive, that would have indicated like an enormous octopus.
Oh, yeah, they were definitely taking down ships.
So they think it was real.
Yeah.
They think at one point in time there really were massive octopus.
Smart enough to
What
do
is
it.
that fossil, the fossilized version of the Kraken? So they found these fossils of the suction cups on the bottom of the ocean floor. And they were like, what? The fact that that's not challenged, the fact that our health guidelines aren't set on, hey, what you should be eating is what human beings are designed to eat in nature.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
which is real food.
I mean, my opinion on dietary guidelines, because we have a USDA that meets every 5 years. And by the way, so the USDA dietary guidelines panel, did you see there's a physician from Harvard named Fatima Stamford, right? And she went on 60 Minutes and said, obesity has nothing to do with diet. It has nothing to do with exercise. It's all disease and genetic, and there's nothing you can literally do. And she's also sponsored by Novo Nordisk, who makes Ozempic, right? And she's on there. And she's also a member of the U.S. Dietary Guidelines panel. So 95% of the people that sit on the U.S. Dietary Guidelines panel today, for this next one where they're going to come up for the 2025 guidelines, all have financial ties to processed food companies.
But just think about that, like logically, aside from being really good for rich bankers, why would you think that it's a good, for like an average, say like couple who's just like working and making money, and they don't know anything about stocks and bonds and trading, exchange traded funds and what to invest in and whatnot. Why would you say that you should be working? No, you shouldn't be working and saving a little bit for your retirement. What you should be doing is gambling. You should always be gambling your money constantly. Isn't that sound financial advice? Gamble on something that you don't understand.
Right. And you've done no research on.
Yeah. But for a while it was 10%. Was what the Federal Reserve set as the reserves that you had to put away. So when you come into your bank and you give them $100 to open a checking account, just to make it an easy number, they hold $10 and they loan out $90. And now, so they'll loan that money out, and so essentially they owe you $100. But the effect of this, right, is that now there's this guy. So let's say you open the account with $100. Now there's another guy who takes out a loan for $90, and you're now in the economy, and kind of like you think you have $100, and he thinks he has $90, but really there's not $190. There's only $100. That you get what I'm saying? But now here's where it gets even crazier than that. This guy doesn't just hold his $90, he goes and puts it in the bank.
This is all garbage, but they keep doing it over and over again because they generate headlines, the headlines they want. But anyway, back to this beef checkoff thing. So I said, hey, look, every year you award money, hundreds of thousands, tens of millions of dollars to promote beef. I said, let's get a little bit of money to do a research study on diabetes. And they literally said, no, we're not interested in doing that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The beef industry is taking a beating right now. You listen to it.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Like, I'm not even looking forward to I'm not even trying too much right now to like actually build a house and be like, this is how I want my kitchen or living room. Not even worried about it. The living compartment is on the upstairs. I'm worried about the downstairs because that's gonna be like my shop. I used to paint cars, and I want to do that in my free time again.
What kind of painting?
Like I was still very much like
artistic painting, you mean?
No, like, paint the cars.
And so they set up a camera, and they found out what was going on was the octopus was climbing out of his tank, walking across the floor, climbing up into the other tank, jacking a fish, eating it, and then going back into his tank.
The comedian in me imagined it jacking off a fish and then eating it, but
for some reason, when I was imagining it, the octopus was wearing sunglasses in the whole story.
The Pink Panther song playing.
I mean, funny. How insane is that the thing figured out that it could get out and walk in a place where it can't breathe?
Well, they can fit through anything that their eyes can fit through.
That's crazy.
No matter how big they are, I think.
Also,
don't quote me on that.
And so the bank holds 10% of that money and then loans out 90% of that to somebody else, who then puts that money in the bank. And then they take 10%. So when you actually look at the effect of it, there's like not nearly as much money in the bank as we all think we have in the world. So essentially, if everybody came into the bank, or even just too many people came into the bank and said, we'd like to withdraw our money, there's nowhere near enough money for them to give you. So inherently, the whole thing is kind of a house of cards.
It's like when you're going to a stadium and you try to use your cell phone. You realize there's no signal, even though you have 5 bars.
It's eye-opening to the point of you understand how great we have it in the United States and how beautiful this country is, and you also understand how fragile life is and how brutal the world can be and how brutal humanity can be towards each other. It can be gone like that. And I think being exposed to it for that long and then coming home, the things that I've been able to pull away from that are, this place is amazing. It's beautiful. It's something that we should foster and encourage and continue to pass down through generations, because we're so fucking fortunate to have hit the birth lottery being born here.
Yeah.
Like, I roll out of bed every day, man. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like, I'm so happy to be alive.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I just remember this guy's like rich. I mean, just hold like these fucking paintings and just stand on the street like a homeless man. And it's just fucking...
Just want everybody to see his painting?
Yeah, he's just nuts. He's just fucking rich, crazy guy with way too much time on his hands. And when I saw that, I was like, bro, like, once you reach a level of money, like, you probably just do crazy shit just for the fuck out, just because you can. You know what I mean?
Especially if all you do is make money. Like, that's what those dominatrix ladies always say. That their clients are always these guys who are like these CEOs of mega corporations, and they just want to get pissed on and yelled at and slapped.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, they want to get tied up and thrown in the corner. Shut the fuck up. And they come over and kick them in the balls. You get that from a hard life, man, and coming out on the other side as this like beautiful creation of love and creativity. And that's that dude. That's the real thing, man. That's not an act. That's him 24/7. And it's amazing. And it's very inspirational, and it's very good for everybody. It's good for everybody. It's good for everybody he encounters.
He was like, he was so busy after the show, and they had to do promo stuff after the Opry. So we took off. And then he told me, he goes, I didn't get to say goodbye to Tanner. I took Tanner to the show and his girlfriend. And he's like, I said, I think you said goodbye. He's like, I didn't give him a good hug to say goodbye. And it's like, I mean, thinking about even that.
The people are they're gonna go on an all meat diet or close to all meat diet, and their diabetes is gonna go away. It's simple, and it takes all the confusion out. Because whenever you do, you hear all these dietary studies, it's like, oh, but he was eating hamburgers and French fries, and there's all this confounder.
Right.
So and it's like you can't really test it. I'm like, the perfect way to test if meat is healthy or not is to just put them on a damn carnivore diet and see what happens.
It's the only way to test
Right,
it. Because
right,
if you
well,
do
yeah.
an epidemiology study
Right,
and you
right.
don't account for sugar, sugary
Right,
drink,
right, right.
Coca-Cola, bread, pasta, lasagna.
Yeah, that's what Harvard did recently. They didn't account for sugar intake when they said beef causes diabetes. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! You're not even counting sugar.
That's so crazy.
Right, but they get this published, and this is really bad science, you know. And guys like John Anitis, who's one of the most cited scientists in the world, has basically said all this epidemiology we're doing, we're just wasting money. It's not telling us anything. This is all garbage. But they keep doing it over and over again because they generate headlines, you know, the headlines they want. But anyway, back to this beef checkoff thing. So I said, hey.
We talked about him last time, and I think we even listened to his songs, but I finally saw him live.
Oh, he's amazing.
At the Opry. He was like the fucking, I mean, if I think about how nice he is, I could almost, I don't want to say I'm going to cry, but it's like he is so nice, dude.
Yeah, he's a
It's like he treated me like family.
Yeah.
I mean, we went out to dinner, and then even after the show, he was just like, he goes, what'd you think of my family? I mean, he cares.
Yeah.
He is such a big-hearted person. And it was amazing how welcoming and kind and thoughtful, and puts on an amazing show. Talks to the people, like makes people cry when he's talking to them in between songs because he's so heartfelt.
Yeah.
He's been through so much, but he's like,
There's you and him and Nelly. That's awesome.
And I don't know how he was back in the day, you know.
I get it verified on Instagram for like 10 years. You send in a stupid fucking thing, and you send in the articles that you've been mentioned in, and they would always ignore it. And then last year in November,
It was October. We opened for Joey at Sony Hall
at Broadway, sold out show.
We were so excited.
I had the best set. I just had like one of the best sets of my life in this sold out theater. Everyone's like, whoa, like literally standing ovation, right? I get off stage. I'm going to get my camera that's on a tripod in the back. And like during the chaos at people being like, great job, you know, you have to walk past people to walk out. And then, and some dude pokes my vagina. Like,
oh, yes.
Did you hear this story? Yeah. So he does that. But then when I turn around to see who does it, he acts like he's blind and disabled. So then immediately I'm like, kind of just like my adrenaline's pumping just from the set itself. And then that just happened.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Like there's certain guys like Max Holloway doesn't even spar. He just fights. He says, I know how to fight. I don't want to get beat up in the gym and go into a fight compromised. He goes, I want to go into a fight 100%. So I don't even spar. He just does drills. And, you know, he's one of the best alive.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Like there's certain guys like Max Holloway doesn't even spar. He just fights. He says, I know how to fight. I don't want to get beat up in the gym and go into a fight compromised. He goes, I want to go into a fight 100%. So I don't even spar. He just does drills. And, you know, he's one of the best alive.
I think we live in a vibrational universe, and that things enter our experience based on the things that we think in the world that we create.
Yeah.
And so when you,
I just think if the fish are flowing this way, the jelly's going to go this way too. And it seems like they know what they're doing, but they're just kind of going with whatever is happening
Also,
around them.
some of them are poisonous as fuck. Like the box jellyfish.
Which means they know they need to be poisonous.
Yeah.
So, which means they're aware that there's danger. So
they're
aware.
sentient in some way.
Yeah, they have no
like,
brains, but
"Don't
they're aware.
fuck with me."
I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of jellyfish.
Well, especially if you think about where box jellyfish live. They're Australia, right? Australia has great white sharks everywhere.
Australia has those little cute octopi that, is it octopus?